ต้นดนตรีอินคาก็เหมือนกับแคนเรา 5,000 ปีไม่ต่างกันเลยเหมือนแคนไม่ต่างกันเลยคลุยเคยเหมือนกันหมดวัฒนธรรมทั้งโลกอะหลวงพี่มาจากจุดเดียวกันหมดอะใช่แคนเรามันกว่าแคนเราสนุกกว่าแคนเรามันแดนได้แคนเราต้องเซิร์ฟเมื่อคืนนี้ผมก็นำแดนอย่างเดียวพอถึงท่าเรือเรียกฝนตกจริงๆผมทำท่าเรียกฝนลงไอ้พวกนี้มันบอกให้สุภชัยคุยกับดินน้ำไฟลมรู้เรื่องไหมไมเคิลบอก
Thank you very much, Dr. Lewis. Music is a universal language, and I think in all belief and faith, we use the music to be a connectivity to the divine power. So I believe the message by the performance of Dr. Lewis has been connected with divine power. So it's a kind of receiving a blessing today for the opening sessions. Thank you. Next, we will be having a welcome address by Mr. Maris Sengyamphong, Vice Chairman and Deputy Secretary General of OHCHR 980, and followed by Ms. Cynthia Veliko, Regional Representative of UN OHCHR in Southeast Asia, and Dr. Prashant Sharma, President and Co-founder of Dharma Alliance Geneva. Okay.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome everyone. My speech might not be able to entertain you like Dr. Lewis is doing, but there's an expression within UN and the diplomatic corps that's no free lunch or dinner or whatever, because we have to speak. And all of you, the audience, you also have no free lunch or free dinner or free breakfast. You have to listen, even though you don't want to listen. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, it is with great honor and deep gratitude that I welcome you all to the sixth annual Faith for Rights meeting, held under the auspices of the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, co-sponsored by OHCHR 980 and the Peace Alliance. We gather here at the critical times in our shared histories. Around the world, society faces complex challenges, conflict, inequality, climate crisis, and the rise of divisions and intolerance. In the midst of these challenges, faith and belief remains a powerful source of inspiration. Faith traditions at their best remind us of the inherent dignity of every human being, of our duties to care for one another, and of the shared responsibilities to protect our common home. The Faith for Rights framework builds bridges between universal human rights and the moral wisdom of religious tradition. It invites us to move beyond dialogue towards joint action, where religious leaders, civil societies, and the government work together to advance peace, justice, and human dignity for all. Over the past 6 years, this initiative has grown into a unique space where faith, based on actors of human rights advocates, engage in constructive cooperation. It has shown us that while our traditions may differ, our value of compassion, respect, and solidarity unite us. The meeting is not only an opportunity to reflect on achievement, but also a call
พูด
to
ถึงผู้
action.
บน
We
meditation
must
center ของเบอร์พูด
strengthen
แล้ว
our
รีจิสเตอร์
commitment
ใน UN
to,
ตอน UN
to
บอกโอเค
protect
แล้ว
the
แล้วก็พูดต่อว่า
vulnerable,
century of
to
Dhamma
counter hate
Dhamma
speech
century
and
ในเครือรับหมด
discrimination,
บอก
to
ว่าสุภา
promote
ชัย
gender
เดี๋ยวกลับมาก็จะไป
equality,
รายงานข้าวหลวงใหญ่
and to ensure that
เดี๋ยวเขาจะหารือกับออน
freedom
ต่อ
of thought,
บอกเย็นนี้คุยกัน
consent,
วางไม้ส
and
โตนต่อ
religion
ออนบอก
are
แล้ว
safeguarded
มาทำงานนอกเจ
everywhere.
นีวา
I invite each of you
มา
to
เดินกราวเวิร์
contribute
ก
with
การกรา
openness,
วเวิร์กเขาบอกเป็นประวัติ
courage,
ศาสตร์นะไม่ใช่
and
เขาไม่
creativity.
เคยคิดเขาบอกว่า
Let
ผม
this
เปลี่ยนความคิดไปเย
gathering
อะมาก
be a
ใน
source
เครือ
of
ภาษาเขา
renewed
บอกผมติดฟัน
inspiration,
เมื่อคื
so
นเรา
that
คุย
when
ผม
we
บอกว่า
leave
เชื่อ
this
มาก
hall,
เชื่อ
we do so with a stronger
ผ
collective
มเปลี่ยนเขาได้หมด
resolve
เปลี่ย
to
น
transform faith into action and convictions into cooperation. Excellency, distinguished participants, let me turn your attention a little bit to the faith of Dhamma, where wholesome mind or Kusolaje is a key factor leads to global peace and stability. When we speak of peace, our focus often turns ourselves to negotiation, treaty, and political agreement. I've gone through all of this process for a long period of time. I've served at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for 36 years. These are necessary, yet they are not sufficient. For lasting peace is not born in parliament halls, or even not in government chamber or in courts. It is born in the human heart and mind. In many wisdom traditions, including the Dhamma path, we find a framework of cultivating a wholesome mind, and they are sila or sin that we call, samadhi or samadhi, and panya. Sila or morality is the foundation. It is the practice of right conduct, of choosing compassion over harm, and justice over exploitation. A society grounded in morality protects the vulnerable and nurtures trust among people. Samadhi or concentration is the training of attention and mindfulness in a world of destruction and division. Concentration gives clarity. It enables us to listen deeply, to act with calm rather than impulse, and to see beyond our own narrow interests. Panya or wisdom is the flowering of insight. It is the understanding that all beings are interconnected, that peace for one cannot come at the expense of another. Wisdom allows us to act not only for short-term gain, but for long-term good of humanity and for our planet. Together, morality, concentration, and wisdom form the architectures of a wholesome mind. And the world shaped by wholesome mind is the world moving towards peace and security. Think of the crisis we face today. Conflict between nations, intolerance between communities, the degradations of our environment. Each of these has its roots not in external conditions, but it is in inner conditions such as anger, greed, fear, and ignorance. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, global peace is not built only in conference hall and government chamber, like I said earlier. It begins in the silence of meditation, in the patience of family, in the compassion of neighbors, in the wisdom of community. Imagine a world where nations invest not only in weapons of defense, but in the cultivations of human characters. Imagine a generation rise not in fears of differences, but in appreciations of our shared humanity. Imagine leaders guided not by anger or ambition, but by morality, concentration, and wisdom. This is not a utopian dream. It is the practical path to a sustainable peace. For when minds are wholesome, actions are just. And when actions are just, societies are stable. And when society are stable, the world is at peace. Let us therefore commit ourselves not only to shaping policy, but to cultivate sila, samadhi, and panya within ourselves and our communities. For
เรา
from
นำธรรมะ
wholesome
เข้า
mind
สู่ UN
through
เป็นครั้งแรกในประ
global
วัติ
peace
ศาสตร์นะ
will surely
อาจารย์บอก
arise.
ว่าเพิ่งอยู่มา 9
On
ปี
behalf
UN
of
ไม่เคยยอมให้
the
พูดเรื่องธรรมะ
institutions
เล
of
ยนี่เป็นครั้ง
Bodhikaya
แรก
Chala
ที่มาเจอ
980,
หลักเป็นครั้งแร
I
กนะครับ
warmly
ประวั
welcome
ติ
you
ศาสตร์ที่เว
and
ล
wish
คัม
you
คำนี้
all
เพราะไม่
a
มีชาวพุท
fruitful
ธ
and
จะไม่
inspiring
เข้าใจคำนี้
conference today.
แต่วันนี้ที่
Thank
ผม
you
ลง
very
ที่
much.
ที่ต้องยอมรับคำนี้ที่ศาสนาในกรรมการคิดว่าเท่ากับว่าเป็นประวัติศาสตร์นี่จะเป็นเล็กของมันทันทีเราทำประวัติศาสตร์นี่เราเขียนประวัติศาสตร์ใช่เป็นหลัก
Swadika, good morning, and I'm delighted to be here. Excellencies, venerable monks, distinguished scholars, colleagues, and friends. On behalf of the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, it's my great honor to welcome you to this event, which is part of the 6th annual meeting of the Faith for Rights community of practices. I wish to express my deep appreciation to our partners, the Bodhigaya Vijalaya 980 Institute and Dharma Alliance, for their vision, dedication, and generosity in making this gathering possible. I would also like to extend my sincere thanks to ESCAP for making this United Nations Conference Center available, and to the people of Thailand for their generous and gracious hospitality in
เข้าไป
hosting
เป็นบอ
these
ดี้ของ
meetings.
UN ต่อไปในอนาคต
As we begin today, allow me to emphasize one essential point. Although we are meeting here today in Thailand and in Asia, this is not a regional gathering. It's truly a global one. We are joined in person by participants from Australia, Colombia, Egypt, Germany, Greece, India, Italy, Indonesia, Lebanon, Malaysia, Mauritania, Peru, Senegal, Spain, Sri Lanka, Switzerland, Thailand, the UK, and the United States. I hope I
ของ
haven't
คน
missed
ที่มาเที่ยว
anybody.
นี้มาจากเป็น10
With
ชาติ
many more joining virtually.
คนนี้เป็นเลขา
This
ใหญ่ของที่นี่
remarkable diversity reflects the faith for
เป็นเล
rights.
ขาใหญ่ของอยู่ที่กรุง
It
เทพเนี่ยตัวใหญ่
represents
เป็น
a global community of conscience that transcends geography, culture, and belief in the pursuit of our shared humanity. Holding the 6th meeting in Asia helps us to expand global dialogues, ensuring that the wisdom of every tradition contributes
ครั้
to
ง
our
แรกในประวัติ
collective
ศาสตร์นะหลวง
understanding,
พี่ที่มา
and
เอ
that
เชียไม่เคย
learning
มาเลย
flows in all
มา
directions.
เท่ากับมาสำรวจมา
The
หา
Faith
ประ
for
สบ
Rights
การณ์มาเรีย
framework
นรู้
was launched by OHCHR in
ผม
2017,
บอก
and it was
จะเป็นตัวแทน
designed
ชาวพุทธทั่ว
to
โลกนะ
strengthen
พุทธิ
the
กยา
bridges between
เป็นตัดตัว
faith-based
แทนเลย
actors and
ไปพูด
human
ให้เต็ม
rights
ปากเลย
protection.
เป็นตัวแทน
It grew
ต้องพูดกับฮิ
nearly
นดู
a
ไม่ฮินดู
decade.
ก็เข้าไม่ได้
It grew from nearly a decade
เข้าไม่ได้
of reflections on how to address hate speech while also promoting freedom of religion and expression, as enshrined in Articles 18 and 20 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. Since then, Faith for Rights has evolved into a vibrant global community of practice that's guided by 18 communities and that translates shared ethical and spiritual principles into human rights action. Over the years, from Beirut to Geneva to Rabat and also to Asia, this initiative has nurtured a profound conversation between belief and universal human dignity. Today's meeting broadens and enriches this conversation by specifically including Dharmic and indigenous perspectives, which represent more than 2 billion people worldwide. Bringing faith for rights to Asia and to Thailand in particular is both timely and symbolic. This region is home to ancient Dharmic and indigenous traditions that emphasize harmony, mindfulness, and interdependence of all beings, principles that radiate beyond Asia and resonate across cultures and communities worldwide. For too long, these perspectives have remained at the margins of international human rights dialogues, despite their deep ethical and philosophical resonance with universal values. These traditions remind us that rights and duties are inseparable, and that compassion and justice are not opposites, but complementary paths to peace. The theme of today's program, Human Rights, Faith and Dharma, aligning inner conviction with just action, captures the very heart of the Faith for Rights framework. It invites us to bridge the inner and outer dimensions of human experience, to translate conviction into compassion and belief into action that uplifts others. In an era that is marked by division, conflict, and erosion of trust, this alignment between conscious and action is both timely and it's essential to advancing human rights and peace throughout the world. The United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk, recently highlighted that, I quote, "The ethical and spiritual foundations of religion and belief have an essential role in addressing the polarization and conflicts that are disfiguring our world and in contributing to reconciliation. There is an urgent need for religious leaders from all faiths to work together to promote the shared, universal principles of human dignity and compassion and to transform them into acts of solidarity." End quote. I wish to recognize our many distinguished participants, special rapporteurs, treaty body experts, scholars, faith leaders, and youth representatives who have joined us from across the world. We're particularly grateful for the strong participation of the Thai colleagues whose perspective ground us in this global dialogue, in local wisdom and lived experience. This gathering also reflects a deepening partnership between OHCHR and Dharmic and indigenous communities, alongside a broad range of international collaborators. Let me in this context also welcome several women religious leaders and female scholars from Mauritania, Senegal, and Egypt. As we begin this peer-to-peer learning event, we look forward to a rich exchange of ideas and experiences and insights across faiths, traditions, and disciplines. May this meeting inspire all of us to reflect deeply on how inner convictions can transform into concrete, constructive action that upholds human rights and dignity for everyone. Through dialogue, shared learning, and mutual respect, we have the opportunity to strengthen the Faith for Rights community and broaden the impact of its commitments worldwide. On behalf of OHCHR, we warmly welcome each and every one of you, both here in person as well as online, and from Thailand and around the world, to this important gathering. May I also take the opportunity to thank my colleagues from OHCHR for supporting to put this workshop together. May our discussions today remind us that universality grows through diversity and that human rights flourish when inner convictions meets just action. Thank you, Swadika, and I wish you a productive and inspiring session.
พูดดีมากพูดดีมากเก่งมากซินเทีย
Thank you, Cynthia. That was very inspiring. I don't think I have much to add after that. But yeah, so the risk of sounding a bit repetitive, I'd like to, of course, welcome everybody, venerable monks, excellencies, distinguished guests, colleagues and friends. Very good morning, sawadee krap, namaste. It's both a privilege and a joy to welcome you on behalf of Dharma Alliance to this gathering of human rights, faith and Dharma, aligning our conviction with just action. Today's meeting is a part of the week-long program for the 6th annual meeting of the Faith for Rights Community of Practices. Over the past days, we have engaged in meaningful deliberations at Shamli and at the majestic Angkor Wat Temple Complex, participated in discussions at Wat Mahathat yesterday and in Bangkok, of course, and now we come together here at the UN Conference Center with today's program culminating at the Wat Bhawan Vihara. These meetings have been guided, I must add, by the wisdom of Venerable Dr. Anil Sakya and Venerable Dr. Mehdi Varayan, whose insights have deepened our reflections and enriched our collective understanding. I would also like to extend sincere appreciation to the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights and, of course, Bodhigaya Vijayala 980 Institute, and all participants, very importantly, in these gatherings. Your collaboration embodies the essence of today's dialogue, bringing together wisdom, conviction, and cooperation in the service of humanity. Dharma Alliance itself was founded in 2021 in Geneva as a neutral, independent, non-political, and non-sectarian institution. Our mission is to introduce dharmic and indigenous perspectives into global policy. Located at the heart of multilateral diplomacy, we serve as a policy platform, convening space, a knowledge hub connecting north and south, east and west. Our work translates enduring dharmic principles into practical pathways for peace, sustainability and shared prosperity. During the 5th annual meeting in Geneva in November last year, 2024, it was noted that the awareness of dharmic traditions remained limited in these discussions. To broaden participation and enrich the dialogue, it was proposed and enthusiastically received that the next annual meetings should be held in Asia. Hosting this meeting in Asia, and since they refer to the remarks as well, achieves several purposes. It brings global standard setting processes outside the usual centers and into regions historically which have been on the periphery of such processes. It also highlights dharmic and indigenous traditions which, as open and plural philosophical systems, offer fresh insights, even if ancient ones, into global discussions on human rights and peace building. Although dharmic and indigenous traditions inspire over 2 billion people worldwide, almost a quarter of humanity, these perspectives have often been underrepresented in the faith process. Recognizing this, Dharma Alliance continues to work closely with the faith rights team at OHCHR, and I'm very grateful to both Ibrahim, of course, who was a progenitor of some of these of this process, and Michael, who've been very welcoming and very open in this engagement that we've had with them over the last few years. We continue to work closely with the team to ensure that these voices are heard and contribute substantively to the dialogue. Dharmic traditions themselves emphasize pluralism, non-violence, service, and interdependence, principles that resonate deeply with human rights and ethical action. They provide practical guidance for translating values into meaningful action and ethical action, locally and globally both. Dharma speaks in that sense to the natural order and the values that sustain life. Importantly, it is at once both personal and universal, aligning inner awareness with right action. At a time, and this is I think critical in the context that we are in, when global governance seeks renewed trust, Dharma offers a language of coherence and balance. It calls us to act with integrity, build relationships rooted in sympathy and empathy, more importantly, seek solutions that uphold both justice and compassion. In this way, Dharma complements and deepens the vision of human rights, ensuring that rights are enlivened by moral purpose and a grounding in interdependence. The Faith for Rights framework provides a vital reference point for this dialogue, one that Dharma can enrich not only through its emphasis on harmony, ethical conduct, and the unity of life, but also by highlighting the principle of duty, the understanding that rights are inseparable from responsibilities, something that most Venerable Dr. Sakya mentioned in the meetings at Wat Mahathat yesterday, and that ethical obligations are essential for sustaining justice and humanity. As we begin today's discussions reflecting on diversity and universality, responsibilities and the shared search of truth, may we do so now with open hearts and humility. Dharma teaches that learning and action grow together, understanding ripens through service, and justice is realized through compassion. On behalf of Dharma Alliance, I warmly welcome you all. May this gathering in Bangkok deepen our insight, strengthen our partnerships, and inspire us to let Dharma shine as a guiding light for peace, prosperity, and the flourishing of all beings. Thank you so much, and I'd like to end with a little a shlok from Sanskrit from the Rig Veda, which essentially calls upon, it's a very universalist prayer, and I'll translate it briefly. It goes something like this: Sarve bhavantu sukhina, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kashchit dukh bhag bhavet. Which broadly means, may there be sarve bhavantu sukhina. I always have to remind myself and say this in Sanskrit to remember the order. Sarve bhavantu sukhina. May there be happiness and peace everywhere. Sarve santu. May there be good health everywhere and for all. It's always for all. Sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani. May there be shared prosperity for all, and of course in the end, may there not be any suffering for anyone anywhere. And it is a very all-encompassing, inclusive shlok, which simply says these are the principles for all that inhabit this earth. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. So I think we have been listening, and then the core of summarization is that the sharings of the duty and responsibilities toward the peace. So I hopefully that today panel sessions we will be discussing more, exchanges more, and we will be walking towards the peace for the human rights, regardless of beliefs and faith. Thank you. So. Okay, now we will be having a keynote address by His Venerable Dr. Anil Satya of Wat Bawanivet. He will be giving us a lot of wisdom. And we will be having Dr. Subchai Virapuchong, Vice Chairman and Secretary General of Bodhikiya Vidyalaya 980, he will guide us about the path to the responsibilities. So welcome His Venerable and Dr. Subchai.
So good morning, Joel. Hope that you had a good evening last night with a cruise dinner and had a good sleep so that you can be fresh today. Thank you for many of us who come from different faith group. I noticed that there's the Thai Brahmin here, which is very unique, which is very different from what you used to see in the Indian Brahmin. We have a very Thai Brahmin here. And then I also see some of the other group here, so thank you for coming. Well, this is something very interesting and very new way of thinking, I guess that for Asia, because the faith for action has been mainly dominated in the West, and then we hardly hear about that. Of course, the role played by the OHCHR, Human Commission, is very difficult for me. I guess that I don't have that right, I guess. The High Commission of the Human Rights has been a very, very influential organization that actually in every country and every community, we have to really rely on such organization to keep the balance of the things. As today I am asked by the organizers, although I am also part of the organizing committee. So anyway, I was asked to say something about reconciling diversity and universality through Dharma, the ethical foundations of rights and responsibility. Well, 77 years ago, the world came together to proclaim the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, a moral compass for humanity after the devastation of war. That declaration was and still a profound statement of faith in human dignity, that every person is born free and equal in rights and should be allowed to live their life in the best possible way. Yet, we know this version remains unfinished. Human rights continue to revolve, shaped and sometimes challenged by deep diversities of our world, cultural, spiritual, and moral. It is often assumed that human rights have one single meaning. But when we listen carefully to the moral tradition of different civilizations, we find that understanding right is deeply contextual. In the West, rights are often understood as individual entitlements. In much of Asia, they are viewed through relationship as responsibilities within a web of community and interdependence. In other words, where the language of law speaks rights, in Asian Dharma-based tradition, they express as the responsibilities and mutual obligations. Thus, the Asian moral imaginations remind us that what sustains human dignity is not only what we demand, but what we give. This perspective invites us to balance the language of rights with the language of responsibilities, and to root both in the deeper principle of Dharma. And in truth, these two languages are not opposites. They are two halves of the same whole. The Sanskrit word dharma, or in Pali is dhamma, means that which upholds or that which sustains. It refers to the natural and moral law that maintain harmony in the universe. It is the principle that keeps life in balance, sustaining justice, peace, and well-being. In this sense, dharma is not merely a religious concept. It is what we might today call sustainability in action. In fact, what the Buddha delivered, his first sermon after enlightenment, the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, or turning the wheel of the Dharma, he was in essence speaking of the sustainable development in action. That discourse was not a dogma, but a guide to balance, the middle way which sustained well-being and harmony of all beings. Dharma, therefore, is sustainability in its truest and most holistic sense, spiritual, ethical, ecological, and social. It is a timeless wisdom of how to live in harmony with oneself, with others, and with the natural world. It teaches that all life is interdependent and that our happiness is inseparable from the happiness of others. My happiness depends on yours. Your peace sustains mine. This understanding that all life is interwoven is the bridge that reconciles diversity and universality. The OHCHR, drafted in 1948, was a magnificent step towards universal justice. Yet, like all human creations, it carries the marks of its time. For example, The repeated use of the pronoun his without her, though unintentional, reminds us that even universal ideals evolve through human limitation. The OHCHR, like Dharma, must continue to evolve to better reflect the cultural, spiritual, and ethical diversities of humanity. It is not finished text, but a living process, a moral dialogue that must keep turning like the wheel of the Dhamma itself. The Buddha's teaching of the middle way provides timeless wisdom for the practice of human rights today. We see two extremes in the modern world. One where rights are neglected, where life, liberty, and dignity are denied. The other where rights are absolutized, where people become consumed by entitlement, forgetting compassion and collective responsibility. Both lead to imbalance. The middle way teaches balance, to claim our right with mindfulness and to fulfill our duties with compassion. Justice without compassion becomes cold. Compassion without justice becomes weak. The middle way unites both, giving us a vision of human rights rooted in balance, not conflict. In this balance lies the seed of sustainable and peaceful society. In Buddhism, the ethical foundation of Dharma is expressed through the 5 precepts, known as Sila Panchasila. 1. Learn to abstain from taking life, learn to abstain from taking what is not given, learn to abstain from the sensual misconduct, learn to abstain from the false speech, and learn to abstain from the intoxicant that could the mind. These precepts are not commandments, but voluntary disciplines, ethical commitments to protect life, protect property, protect dignity, protect truth, and encourage mindfulness. So, this is among these 5 precepts, which is put in a very simple word, as a foundations, as a truly human being who respect the right of others. In that 5 precepts, I just want to really focus on the 3rd one, which actually we understand, obviously, said that particularly very, very kind of a interpretation, I guess, or kind of just a shifting the interpretation. They said sexual misconduct. But based on the Pali term, the kami sumicchachara, is often translated as refraining from the sexual misconduct, but its essence is much, much far deeper. In the sense, it means one should not infringe upon the rights of others through the 5 senses, to respect the personal, emotional, and spiritual boundaries of every being. In this sense, the 3rd precept directly encapsulates the earliest concept of human rights taught by the Buddha himself 2,500 years ago. It upholds the principle that each being is sovereign over their own body, dignity, and freedom. A vision of respect that transcends gender, status, and all species. When practiced sincerely, the 5 precepts become a living constitution, a Dharma-based human rights framework rooted in compassion, restraint, and mutual respect. Guided by Dharma, he renounced violence and proclaimed the equality of all beings and tolerance for all faith. One of the great King Asoka, who was in the 3rd century BCE. And in his edicts, it is well carved that in stone across the vast empire of the Indian subcontinent, that he affirmed that justice, fairness, and the welfare of including animals was there. He declared, it is my desire that should be uniformity in law and uniformity in justice. These were among the earliest articulation of universal moral law echoing the same principle later enshrined in the UDHR. Ashoka's Dharma, like the UDHR, affirmed the same truth that the foundation of peace is compassion in action. And this verse is we always hear from His Holiness Dalai Lama as well. What is the word religion? He said that my religion is a compassion in action. Distinguished friends, allow me to now reconnect these reflections to the United Nations Faith for Right initiative. This initiative invites the world's faith traditions to work together to promote human dignity, equality, and peace, to transform belief into shared ethical action. In this noble effort, the Dharma tradition, Buddhism, Hinduism, Jainism, Sikhism, and others can play a vital and distinctive role. The Dharma approaches begin not from divine command, but from direct realization of interdependence and compassion. It seems that human rights, not only as a protection from the harm, but as an expression of inner awakening, a reflection to the truth that all beings share the same nature of suffering and hope. 1. An ethical shift from entitlement to responsibility. So integrating the Dharma into the faith of rights framework can offer 3 valuable contributions. 1. An ethical shift from entitlement to responsibility. Dharma reminds us that rights are sustained by duties, that compassion is the guardian of justice. 2. A universal language of compassion. Dharma transcends creed or doctrine. It speaks through the value of nonviolence, mindfulness, and interdependence, value that unite all faiths. And 3, a path inner transformation. The Buddha taught that outer peace arises from inner peace. True human rights flourish only when the human mind is purified by greed, hatred, and delusion. Integrating Dharma into the Faith of Right initiative, I would thus expand human rights discourse from a legal enforcement to spiritual responsibility, from political aspiration to ethical practice. It would guide humanity from the struggle for rights to the cultivation of a caring and compassionate society. This integration is not about replacing one system with another, but about creating harmony between universal law and inner truth, between rights and Dharma. Rights protect us, but they cannot by themselves create peace. Peace arises when rights are balanced with compassion. A society that cultivates empathy and mindfulness no longer needs to enforce morality, because moral awareness rises naturally from the heart. That is the vision of Dharma, to transform human rights from external law into inner virtue, so that law and love become one. That is the essence of Dharma. And that is a deeper goal of the Faith of Right initiative, to awaken in each human heart the spirit that sustains peace. Dharma teaches that diversity and universality are not opposite. They are interdependent truths. In the teaching of the dependent origination, the Buddha said, all things arises in dependence upon cause and conditions. Thus, no person, no culture, and no right exists in isolation. Each is sustained by the whole. This truth reminds us that we are not separate. My dignity depends on yours. My freedom depends on the peace of others. To honor this interdependence is to reconcile diversity with universality. To recognize that we are many in form, but one in essence. Diversity and universality are not contradictions. They are reflection of the same Dharma of interbeing. Finally, I would like to propose 7 pathways for future collaboration between Dharma-based tradition and Faith for Rights framework. 1. Establish a Dharma and Right working group. I propose the creation of Dharma and Right Working Group within the Faith of Rights Network. Its goal to explore how Dharma-based values, truth, compassion, self-restraint, interdependence, and justice can enrich and contextualize universal human rights education and advocacy. This group would bring together scholars, faith leaders, and practitioners from Hindu, Buddhist, Jain, Sikh background, alongside Christianity, Judaism, Islam representative who are interested in ethical living and sustainability. 2. Develop Dharma-inspired learning modules for the Faith for Rights Academy. I suggest that the Faith for Rights Academy include Dharma-centered learning modules focused on the ethical responsibility, non-harming, and mindful existence. These can illustrate how Dharma principles resonate with the 18 Faith of a Right commitments, especially those concerning dignity, non-discrimination, and the care for creation. Such modules could be piloted in monastic, temple, and interfaith educational institutions across Asia. 3. Host Dharma dialogue on faith for right in Asia. I propose organizing regional dialogues and a community workshop under the Faith for Right framework in Dharma-based regions such as Cambodia, Thailand, India, Bhutan, Nepal, and so on. Each dialogue can explore themes like harmony as a human rights, interdependence and a global responsibility, or even sustainability through Dharma. These gatherings could showcase how ancient moral frameworks remain deeply relevant to modern human rights challenges. 4. Integrate Dharma principles into sustainability and a climate justice initiative. Highlight the Dharma as its essence is the law of balance and a right relationship with self, others, and the nature. I suggest that Faith for Right collaborate with Dharma-based ecological movement and faith communities to promote environmental right as human rights. Yesterday, we went through the ceremony, which is very, very typical. It has been carried on from 2,500 years ago. The robe itself, just given the king gave a piece of white cloth, but within that a few hours, we made it to a certain ready-made robe by cutting, by sewing, by dyeing and drying. We finished that cloth about 2 o'clock in the morning. And then we said that we got one piece of cloth. Who is suitable to get that among the hundreds of monks? We are kind of using very recycled idea, kind of a very, very honoring the nature and how do we live as a compassionate world. So the 5th, launch a compassionate society initiative. I advocate for a new Faith for Right initiative titled Compassionate Societies, aimed at promoting ethical leadership, mindfulness in public service, and community care rooted in Dharma-based virtues. The present Thai king, His Majesty the King Rama, kind of a very, very corner project is that once he got into the throne, he used the word Chit Asa, which basically means that he said that we have to really change the whole perspective by public service, by voluntary public service. It's one of the pilot project His Majesty King, doing through all over the country. Using not even the money, single penny, but able to mobilize, able to change all the traditions, everything what is going on in names of a development, in names of a nature, in terms of climate change, and even names of the all belief. So, 6, establish a research hub on Dharma, tradition, and human rights. I suggest forming a Dharma tradition and human rights research network, possibly in partnership with the leading universities and monastic institute in Asia. This research could document how Dharma-based civilization historically linked moral law with social justice and how those insights can contribute to a global human rights discourse today. Last, the 7th, which is the 1 week of our life, draft a shared ethical charter on Dharma and human rights. I encourage the creation of a shared ethical charter uniting Dharma-based moral values with the Faith for Rights commitments. The charter could affirm principles such as the unity of life and interdependence of all beings, responsibility as a natural counterpart of rights, compassion and truth as a universal moral foundation. This would serve as a moral bridge between a diverse religious and a humanistic tradition. Dear friends, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights gives us a legal foundation for justice. The Dharma gives us spiritual foundation of sustainability. Together, they can lead humanity towards a future that is lawful and loving, diverse and harmonious, responsible and free. With Dharma informs the Faith for Right initiatives, we begin to see human rights not just as policy, but as a part of awakening, a journey towards more compassionate, mindful, and peaceful humanity. When Dharma informs human rights and compassion become the measure of justice, the wheel of the Dharma turns once more, guiding us towards a sustainable and peaceful world for all beings. That is how we may reconcile diversity and universality through the living Dharma that upholds all life. Well, after a long deliberation, please allow me to end by saying, Dharma reminds us that human rights are not granted, they are realized through righteous living. When faith traditions stand together in compassion and responsibility, we move from protecting rights to cultivating harmony. This is the future of faithful rights, a future rooted in the Dharma, where universality is not a concept, but a lived experience. Thank you. May all beings be safe. May all beings be free from suffering. May all beings live in peace. Thank you.
Sorry for my eyesight. I have big trouble with my left eye. So, Excellency, distinguished delegate, venerable monastic, respect representative of diverse faith tradition, esteemed colleague and dear friend from around the world. It is a profound honor on the behalf of Bodhikaya Vicharaya 980 Institute BGVI to welcome all distinguished delegates, representatives of diverse faith tradition, and human rights advocates to this important gathering at the United Nations Conference Center in Bangkok. Today, we come together not merely to exchange ideas, but to chart a shared path toward the future, one that connects human rights with the inner strength of faith and the illuminating light of Dhamma. The Faith for Right framework of the United Nations reminds us that human rights are not merely legal entitlement, but moral responsibility, requiring courage, compassion, and conviction. Rise with duty. For without responsibility, right least become hollow word. From a Dhammic perspective, our conduct toward others, our community, and the planet is inseparable from very dignity we seek to uphold as human beings. At the same time, faith does not signify passive belief. It embodies a living process of seeking, questioning, learning, and engaging in interreligious and intercultural dialogue. Dhamma teaches that truth is not a fixed concept, but a living journey that we must walk together. To affirm the value of seeking is to cultivate humanity, unity, and a deep sense of cooperation among the mankind. When we speak of the Dhamma century, we do not refer merely to a century in time, but to an era of awakening, an age in which humanity rediscover the law of truth that transcends all religions and cultures. Dhamma is the law of nature, the universal order that sustains balance in the cosmos. It represents power not of domination, but of liberation, the power of compassion, courage, and self-awareness. To live by Dhamma means to live with mindfulness in every breath, to perceive truth in every moment, and to act with kindness in every circumstance. In our contemporary world, the city of Ubon Ratchathani in Thailand has become center of what is now known as the World Meditation City, a place where people from across the globe come to meditate and seek truth together. This movement symbolizes humanity shift from external pursuit toward inner peace and wisdom. Across the Mekong River Basin, a land through which Dhamma flow beyond borders, the Dhammayatra, or the pilgrimage of peace, have united heart and community across Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, Myanmar, and Vietnam. In Ubon Ratchathani alone, more than 600,000 people walk and meditate for peace each day. Each step is a prayer, each breath a living Dhamma. This is the true reflection of the Dhamma century, an age where faith, human rights, and hope converge in harmony, where Dhamma is no longer confined to doctrine, but become a way of life and a peaceful force for transformation our world. On behalf of BGVI, I believe that today's meeting is not an endpoint, but is the beginning. A shared mission built on three essential foundations. First, to balance right and responsibility, reaffirming human dignity through compassionate accountability. Second, to honor seeking as an expression of faith, nurturing a culture of learning, dialogue, and humility across tradition. Third, to harmonize diversity with universality, creating unity within a difference as a basis for just action. Looking forward, the Bodhikaya Vicharaya 980 Institute is committed to advancing the mission by empowering the voice of youth, ensuring the next generation not only inherit but lead the future. We will continue to promote inclusivity across all religious, gender, and identities, reflecting the true diversity of humanity. We will also continue to create mindful space such as the Five Nation Dhammayatra across the Mekong region, where Dhamma endure as a bridge connecting heart and community. Let this gathering serve as a call to awaken the light of Dhamma within the human heart, to restore mindfulness, wisdom, and compassion as the cornerstone of a balanced and understanding global society. In the history of thought and action, this meeting may stand as a milestone of our shared mission, where inner conviction becomes an energy of responsibility, where diversity strengthens universality, and where Dhamma shines forth as a guiding light toward a world found on compassion, justice, and enduring harmony. The time has come for the global community to embrace and advance the Dhamma century as a collective journey towards peace, so that this world may truly become a home of understanding, love, and compassion for all beings. Thank you very much, everyone.
So just allow me to say a few words. I would like to really express my sincere appreciation for the subcommittee of religious movement, which is the national religious movement under the Ministry of Culture from Thailand. I noticed that a few are here, so I would like to just identify a few here so you can have a direct kind of communication and interaction between the faithful right in Geneva. I noticed that from the Catholic, from Catholic, yeah, this is a representative from the Thai Catholic here, and over there, I noticed, you see the unique one is a Thai Brahmin here, and then is there anyone from the มีคณะกรรมการของเราจากมีไหมครับมีไหมครับมีแค่2ท่านนะครับ Okay, I think at least 2, so you can have a direct interactions because it's supposed to be yesterday, but I think there's a miscommunication, so that they turn up today. So you can have local sort of information and gathering some of the data from their own kind of prime data from themselves. Thank you very much.
Thank you, His Venerable. Thank you, Dr. Subchai. I think the main issues, the core of the speech given is something that we have to put out for the action in a compassionate way, and we do look forward to have 7 pathways that was guided by His Venerable, put into the actions by the Faith and Human Rights.
เราก็ประชุมกันภายในกับไมเคิลกับพวกเรา4-5 คนก่อนที่จะไป
So we will be starting our first panel. We'll be discussing infusing entitlements with responsibilities, rebalancing the moral